What's up, dudes and dudettes of the internet? My name's Seth, and today we're gonna be taking a look at Trove's new Shadow Tower update. Oh, it is absolutely beautiful. This is a video from the test server. As far as I know, once this video ends up actually getting uploaded to all of you fine, beautiful folks, the test server is going to end up being offline, but I did want to show you how beautiful this is if you didn't get to check it out, and I know you console players didn't get to check it out, so here we are. It's hype. Look at this. Already we've got a new UI for the Shadow Tower portal itself. Things are a little bit glitchy right now, but I'll kind of explain to the best of my ability and hopefully not have to make too many cuts in today's video just because of extreme loading times. But Shadow Tower is going to be pretty much the same as it always is, outside of the fact that there's going to be 2 added floors right here. So we've got Spike Walker, and then of course you can just select normal, hard, and ultra right here, and then this is going to open the portal. Don't get tricked like I do by clicking on the lobby all the time, which we'll get to that in a minute because, oh, it's beautiful. There are so many cool things about this lobby, but you can kind of just see on the UI, we've got our shadow keys, moon keys, and eclipse keys all right here, so it actually gets to show very quickly and easily where all these are. Now, I do want to say that as far as Trove's roleplay is concerned, even though there's not really much of a story in this game, eventually they're going to end up having a story update once they care enough to complete it. They had teased about it a couple of times, you know, way back, where they ended up introducing a character called the Darknick character. It was kind of like Daughter of the Moon's henchman because she's kind of like the main bad guy of the game, right? So we've got Darknick is actually hanging out right here underneath Spike Walker, and the only reason I'm pointing this out is because Dreadnought is Darknick Dreadnought, and you can see right here that he's actually an upgraded Spike Walker. So I'm pretty sure that as far as the roleplay is concerned, this is kind of like Spike Walker 2.0. And oh man, you better believe it is the best boss that they've ever added to the game. Like seriously, it even makes Hydra look like a piece of poop. Like really, and Hydra was hyped for years, which is kind of why it's very underwhelming when it gets in the game and it's just Pinata, but stuck on a wall. So then we've got, you know, Weeping Prophet right here, nice pictures for everything. The leaderboards are all right here, so you can check all those out just right off the hop. Hard mode, ultra, everything is all just right there and accessible for you. And then, of course, it's going to end up changing the difficulty while you go through the leaderboard as well. Nice little touch right there. Daughter of the Moon is still going to end up being the end. You can see you defeated the Daughter of the Moon at 3.0 seconds this week and received your reward of 1 lunar soul. So it's going to give you a nice little description. It costs 50 flux to open the portal. The vaults at the end will require a key crafted at the Adventurer's crafting bench to open. Now, you can actually craft this key somewhere else as well. I'll show you in a minute. You must have this much power rank to gain loot and rewards. Now, the reason why this is important to point out, folks, is because normally you could kill Daughter or any of the Titan bosses and you would instantly get the Titan soul or the lunar soul in your inventory. Now you actually are required to open the loot chest at the end, which means that a lot of players that are at the beginning of the game are kind of screwed because you're going to be forced into playing around in primal uber worlds so that you can end up getting fragments of keys to actually end up crafting the key so that you can end up actually getting any of the, not only the loot, but just the souls in general. And the souls are going to be very required for the new gem system and stuff like that. So let's see if the game's going to end up crashing. Hopefully we just get into here right and early. Yes, nope, we didn't. It boosted, or it kicked us to U5 like it always does. Okay, so that's kind of what I mean, where it's very broken. I really hope that this ends up getting fixed before it just ends up going to live. But if we come over to the Trovian Atlas, we can just interact with the Shadow Tower and warp from here, and I think this works a little bit better. Yeah, so here we go. This is the new lobby of the Shadow Tower, and it's very important to note, folks, that while you're in here, not only are you going to see other people that are hanging out in the lobby, means that you're going to be able to start Shadow Tower groups that much easier if you don't really have like a set group that you can end up grinding with, but it also throws you into the Shadow Tower chat. So normally most starting players might not know, but you can actually type /join space, and then whatever word you end up putting is going to end up entering you into a custom chat. The Shadow Tower chat has always been there, but lots of people don't know about it. However, now it's going to automatically kick you into that chat, so you're going to instantly be able able to talk with everybody that's around, not only in this lobby, but in all of the others. And then each of these areas is going to be, you know, we've got this one for the normal Shadow Tower. The one right in the middle is going to be Ultra, and then over here is going to be Hard. Now, unfortunately, the lobby itself is trash in terms of, like, if we come over here to the normal side, there's one Shadow Tower portal. It's pretty much always going to be open because there's always going to be either people that are inside the Shadow Tower right now that we could end up joining, but more likely than that, it's that somebody ends up coming in here, activating the portal, and then they just scurry off and go somewhere else and try to go into another lobby, right? Very disappointing. But we've got this Shadow Tower key mold right here, and this is going to be where you can craft all your different Shadow Tower keys while you're inside the Shadow Tower lobby. It still is, you still can craft these at the Adventurer's crafting table, like the description said, but this table now exists. We're not going to be able to craft this table, however, and most disappointingly is the fact that this crafting table is not at the end of Shadow Towers. I'm honestly surprised that the devs didn't end up doing something about this, because one of the biggest things that ends up happening in Shadow Towers, I'll find, is you'll get through the boss, you know, you get all the way to the end, and then whoops, I've got enough fragments, you know, for the Shadow Tower. I've got enough fragments to end up making the key, but you know, there's no way to craft them. So unless you have somebody inside the Shadow Tower with you, so you can leave, craft a key, and get invited back, you're gonna have to just leave yourself, craft the key, and then just do it all over again, which is absolutely gross. And then over here, we've got the Shadowy Market, which has been updated quite a bit. It's still gonna have the shadow caches, and I wanna give you a quick heads up here, folks. And like, seriously, this is a huge warning. Save your shadow caches. Save them right now until infinity, until this update ends up hitting, okay? Okay, let all your friends know about it too, because not only is there going to be a new dragon egg added to these shadow caches, but Hearts of Darkness become a lot more common. We've seen rolls of up to 7 on the rare for the Hearts of Darkness, 5 at common, and it's good because there's all sorts of new items that you can actually craft from the Hearts of Darkness section right here. Now, I'm gonna have a separate video just so that today can be a little bit more focused on the actual Shadow Tower itself, because I want to show you the Dreadnought more particularly, and just kind of how the Shadow Towers have actually evolved as well. So I'm gonna have a separate video that I'll show off all of these things. I do have them all. Unfortunately, one of these costumes isn't working properly for the Shadow Hunter, but then there's also going to be the Titan Soul section is going to give you a couple extra costumes, and I do want to give you a heads up. This is awesome. So this costume right here for the Tomb Raiser actually makes him look like Weeping Prophet. I did a mod highlight video of this costume a long time back, and it's an absolutely awesome costume by Mewtwoian. Like, seriously, it's fantastic that it not only got added to the game, but actually is right here for us to craft for absolutely free, right? And then there's going to be this one. I know my man Lord Sithis is going to love this, because this is the Vengeful Pinata God costume for the Draco, and it's absolutely beautiful. And then kind of a Spike Walker themed costume for the Chloromancer, let's just say, right? And then we got a whole bunch of different allies and stuff. In the Lunar section, we've got a new costume for the Lunar Lancer, which I can show you right here. It's absolutely beautiful, isn't it? It makes you look like Daughter of the Moon. That's so cool. I don't understand what those weird moons are on her shoulders, though. I don't like those. Get rid of those, and then the rest of the costume is absolutely beautiful. But I just wanted to show you that that does exist. Again, I'll show you in another video all of these things, because we've actually got a Daughter of the Moon share as well. And then this is where things get a little interesting, because we've got a new resource, the Despoiled Divinity. We're just going to call it a Divinity Soul, right? This is going to be a soul that you get from Daughter of the Moon exclusively. So the same as the Lunar Souls being obtained by defeating the final boss on the Shadow Tower, you're also going to get this new item, which is a rare crafting material obtained by defeating the final boss atop the Shadow Tower. And this one you can't grind. It's locked, the same as anything else. Of course, you're going to end up getting more of these the higher Shadow Tower difficulty you end up doing, so everybody's still going to be doing Ultra as much as you can. But with this, you're going to not only be able to craft costumes for every class, these are all going to be kind of lunar themed. Like, look at that Barbarian costume, it's beautiful. One costume for every class. The Revenant, look at that, it's like another Daughter of the Moon thing. It's awesome. The Ice Sage one right here, really excited to see what that ends up actually looking like in game. It's going to take me a long time, and a lot of people, a long time, to actually see these costumes in game, because of the fact that even with my live account on the PC, this is a new resource, meaning that nobody has it, including endgame freaks like myself. So I'm gonna have to be very careful which one I end up picking and choosing. I know I'm gonna be going for the Shadow Hunter first, and then probably go for the Neon Ninja, because I love the fact that we're going to finally have costumes for some of these characters that are gonna be different, not only different themed, but different color palettes, because the Neon Ninja doesn't have a platinum themed costume or anything like that, right? And then over here, while I originally, when I was looking at the photo from the Chinese server, originally I thought this was a helmet that you would use with all the costumes. It's dragon fragments. Yep, that's right, folks. So if we end up hopping back over to the hub here, I'm going to show you this because I don't have a Dragon Crucible in my club on the test server. And if we try to enter the Shadow Tower in there, it's just going to be an absolute mess. But if we end up going all the way over to the Dragon Crucible, you're going to see that there is a new dragon, a whole bunch of new dragons, and I'll have a video talking about all of these bad boys. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have a video showing them all off for quite some time, because even though I opened 3,000 greater dragon caches that I still had left over on the test server, I got like maybe 3 or 4 of those new dragons. But in any case, this is gonna be the one for the the Divinity Soul, right? So you're gonna need 50 of these, which means that you need 50 Divinity Souls. So maybe we won't even go for a costume. You know, maybe I'll just save all of my Divinity Souls so that we can end up getting the new dragon first, because honestly speaking, it's going to be the most important. Not only is it going to give you the extra stats and magic damage, but it's going to give you some more magic find as well. Crafting it, I mean, honestly speaking, this part is the most brutal out of all of it, and otherwise, good luck is all I can really say. So for the sake of time, folks, I'm just gonna insert some footage because I can't seem for the life of me to end up getting into a Shadow Tower. But Shadow Towers have had a complete overhaul where not only do they actually have every enemy type in the game, including Jurassic, dinosaurs, and stuff like that, but they're going to be Shadow Tower themed. So no longer are we going to be in Shadow Towers and end up generating candy enemies or ice enemies and stuff like that. Instead, we're going to have enemies that are very themed to the Everdark, but also a bunch of unique enemy types that are going to be exclusive to the Shadow Tower. This makes things a lot more interesting. On top of that, a lot of the enemies are going to end up having new special attacks and moves that they can use. For example, there's a spider web that the spider enemies that can shoot at you that will end up kind of similar to if you're out in the world and end up getting tagged by a spider boss, like spider boss effect. You're going to be kind of slowed down and be really, really slow at moving and stuff. And then also here in the Shadow Tower Arena, I just wanted to show you this because I think these are the coolest enemies in the game. We've got kind of these mushroom wizards and warriors and stuff. It just looks so cool. They look so dark and evil and sinister, and also very in-themed, and kind of all have their different animations and ways that they end up actually operating. There are still going to end up being certain enemies in the Shadow Tower that will spawn, like there's going to still be the grenade lobbing enemies that do the most damage in the game and stuff like that, but rather than it being candy enemies and ice enemies and stuff like that, because one of the big problems with Shadow Towers was that because it could spawn these different types of enemies, it was very inconsistent as far as the difficulty is concerned, because candy enemies have more health and more damage on average than any other enemy in the game. Now it's just a flat, straight system where outright you're just fighting, you know, these Shadow Tower themed creatures. So before we get to the Dreadnought, because he's absolutely beautiful, I wanted to kind of re-show you the Hydra now that I've actually got some proper footage and we could show him off, rather than, you know, the first time I ended up having the video showing off the Hydra, it was straight up, like, it was just taken from like a dev stream, right? And I'll still have like a separate video that shows off the Dreadnought more specifically, just so that you kind of know his different abilities and stuff like that. But today we're focused on the entirety of the Shadow Tower overhaul, right? So the Hydra boss is absolutely beautiful. You can see right here, he is gigantic. He is amazing. He's not only going to shoot lava that almost is going to cover the entire map, which of course is going to be very deadly the more heads he has, because he's going to end up shooting more and more acid spires around, right? But also the biggest reason why he's difficult is the same reason Pinata God is difficult, because of the minions. Not necessarily because of the boss itself, but because you're going to end up being overwhelmed. However, in this case, thankfully, it seems that the minions that Hydra spawns are all melee based, so you don't really gotta worry about dealing with lasers going all left and right like with the pinata god you deal with all the little fey pinatas and stuff like that, right? And then also, you might have caught it right there and in the previous videos, but when you activate a cursed skull in a shadow tower now, the skull is going to end up going invisible, meaning that Neo Ninjas aren't going to be able to trigger their shuriken and thus become a little bit less useless, or more so a little bit less survivability to them, right? So you gotta kind of watch out for that. And then as for the Dreadnought, oh man, he is absolutely beautiful, so look at him. He is just absolutely amazing, isn't he? So we've got, you know, fire effects that he's shooting around. What he just shot right there, while it looked like he was shooting missiles around the entire map, it was actually kind of like Molotov missiles, let's call it. It just looks so cool and so epic. The fire effects themselves are something brand new and unique to Trove. As he ends up getting lower in health, he's going to end up adding more attacks to his arsenal. You saw right there, he kind of does this big jump slam that he ends up doing periodically, where he'll pretty much, it seems like he always ends up jumping back into the center of the map. And for the most part, it's got to do with just having AoE, but then in his early phases too, he's gonna stomp on the ground, and it's got some nice video effects as well. Right there you saw he kind of gives a nice little warning indicator to the player he's gonna do a deadly move, and right there he actually used a flamethrower, which is just constant stream of damage. It's absolutely deadly, right? And then there's also just going to be, in his earlier phases, he'll kind of put a minigun outside of his outside of the bottom of him, and it kind of just shoots straight in front of him. Generally, he doesn't really move that much, but the fact that he's got so many different abilities that he can end up using is what's most interesting about him. Makes him extremely exciting and extremely tense as well. And then once you get him to about 25, maybe 20% health, you can see right there he keeps kind of doing his melee attack as well, but it's just kind of like, eh. But this right here, this is a big one. So this is a nuke that, as you can see right there, I'll slow down the footage. As you can see, the nuke itself covers pretty much the entire arena except for the corners. And it doesn't matter if you're up in the air like I was. From what I've heard from other people, you can kind of glitch it out if you're all the way at the top of the map and just jumping as high as you can and hugging the ceiling. Then sometimes it'll end up working. You can also just do, like, press shift and do your roll. And because while you're rolling, you're invulnerable to damage, right? So you can use that if you time it correctly to end up avoiding the nuke. But also what the game actually wants you to do is kind of just run off into the corner and stay safe. But more importantly than that, you're going to notice that I was using Death Defying and it still ended up one-shotting me. So thanks so much for watching, everybody. Very much appreciated. An absolutely awesome boss. He's pretty much like the new real last boss of Trove, because Daughter of the Moon is just get out of here, you know, like that is absolutely awesome. Such an amazing boss. Really, really excited to start fighting that one and trying out the Ultra and stuff like that. So in any case, thank you so much for watching. Very much appreciated, folks. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. Sayonara, and stay epic.